On behalf of AmWestEntertainment.com and AmWager.com, I'm Joe Christopher. Week 2 of the Dubai World Cup Carnival. I'm joined as always by the incomparable Mr. Dubai himself, Pat Cummings, who right now is sitting in a room somewhere joining me via video. But shortly, Pat, you're going to be on a plane to none other than Meydan itself.
Yeah, be there for the next 2 nights of the Carnival. Should be a very exciting trip as always. Back for the World Cup in March, all things being equal. And look, we're into the second night of the Carnival, and maybe a look into the future as the 3-year-olds kind of take center stage on Thursday. It should be a great night.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about Thursday's program in just a couple of moments. But first, where you can find additional information outside of this video, AmWestEntertainment.com. Download the Dubai World Cup Carnival Comprehensive, courtesy of Pat Cummings, and DubaiRaceNight.com. Free pass performances, track stats, Pat Cummings analysis and selections in greater detail, and live video on race days as well. Now, Pat, this Thursday, January 16th, earlier post time for our purposes, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 thoroughbred races. They're all relevant and they're all very good, including the feature.
Yeah, the $150,000 Dubai Stakes. This will be a listed event, and it's basically a rerun of last year's Dubai Golden Shaheen. The 5 of the first 6 finishers home in that race are all coming back, and it will be a fascinating race to both bet and analyze, and that'll be coming up here in the program in just a little bit.
Yeah, that comes up as race number 6 as you
race 5.
Race 5 out of 6. Now, Pat, some exciting announcements before we get into the meat and potatoes of the program. Courtesy of AmWestEntertainment.com, a couple of new partnerships with Timeform US and also Horse Racing Nation. Now, TimeformUS.com, they are infiltrating the U.S. market for past performances, and they're going to give away free made-on past performances through Super Saturday. Now, Timeform US past performances contain expanded data for foreign runners and speed figures that are all on the same scale. They're perfect for meets that attract shippers from around the world. Timeform US past performances are built for the modern horse player. They make playing the races faster, easier, and more fun, and they even look great on your iPad or other tablet. Now, you can utilize those Timeform US past performances to play in the Derby Wars contest, courtesy of Horse Racing Nation, a free $150 Dubai contest and additional games weekly at DerbyWars.com, a $250 game, a $100 game, and you can even play head-to-head against other Dubai racing fans. It's a great way to follow the races. You can chat with other players and find out who they like race to race, so you can cash more tickets on the Dubai races as well. HorseRacingNation.com. You can follow Horse Racing Nation on Facebook and follow them on Twitter at HR_Nation. That's Twitter at HR_Nation for great racing information from around the world. Now, Pat, great new partnerships, loads of information, loads of fun, and the social aspect of horse racing via these contests and Derby Wars.
Absolutely, Joe. Tens of thousands of fans really from around the world on Horse Racing Nation. And I know I registered there years ago and actually uploaded and had the wiki for a bunch of Dubai racing information on there. And no, that's phenomenal. And really the Timeform information is really known the world over. And it's actually a bit of a way to normalize some of the international data that's out there. So when you have European shippers, the American horses that'll go over later on for the Carnival, or rather for the World Cup, I think it's trying to bring everything into a more of a holistic single unit, and it's great to have Timeform on board for it.
Most definitely. Racing's all about opinions. Not everyone has the same one, and that's what makes it great and bettable, which ultimately is the goal of horse racing and wagering. Pat, week 1 of the Dubai World Cup Carnival did not disappoint. I want to talk first about round 1 of the Maktoum Challenge, a strangely run race, and it was won by a filly, surprisingly enough to most observers.
Yeah, I'll tell you, she was the favorite for a long way in the American betting, Joe, and that really had me surprised. She took a lot of money, which I thought was kind of interesting. Granted, Sharuk, who is the eventual winner here in the white cap, was a winner against fillies last year, but she runs a really phenomenal race, and it was set up by a very fast pace. The race was just off of the course record set by Sky Surfers back in 2011, and they ran more than a second faster than the Carnival par through the first 1,200 meters of the race. It was very fast, and really probably the most impressive performance was the second place finisher, Empire Storm, who did all that running on the front end and still still stayed on for second. Look, they say Sharuk's going to go on here to the Maktoum Challenge round 2. I think that's going to be a much tougher race than this one was. So I think she might be in for a little bit of trouble. But hey, she beat the boys and she got herself on the board in open company in the Group 2, and it does certainly count for something.
Any other observations and or surprises to you from week 1 of the Carnival?
Well, look, if you had given me odds that Charlie Appleby's first 2 winners at the Carnival would wear white and green silks, I'd have put anything on it that was not going to be the case. I would have figured they'd have been blue. They weren't. The new trainer for Godolphin, Charlie Appleby, 2 winners on the night, and Mike DeCock had 2 winners. Both of those were with horses who had been in Dubai all season, all summer. They were not ship-ins. But I think it did surprise that camp a little bit, so those got off to a good start. And then we had a win from Busker in the 3rd race of the night, which was a bit of an upset, really a big upset in terms of the exacta with Leali Al-Andalus, a long shot who was 2nd. Really put some boxcar payouts up there. But he proved a point, and that is you can save ground, you can angle out at the top of the stretch, you can run on. He did that. He saved a lot of ground, and a lot of horses who ended up covering extra ground. Clon Brûlé was one of them. El Estrendoso, who was, I know, a horse you would fancy, Joe. Look, that's going to hurt them covering that extra ground. And in a race, it was pretty wide open. Remember, ground saving is helpful, and we'll have those track as tips as the Carnival goes along.
I got a horse from that race that I'm looking very forward to seeing running back. More on that when that actually happens. But Pat, let's get into week 2 of the Carnival. As I mentioned, post time 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The opener, the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Championships, and it's time to serve and volley with Pat Cummings, who works those end lines as well as anyone I know. Pat, 2,200 meters, 11 furlongs on Tapeta, and you've tabbed Caddo Mountain as a 2-1 morning line favorite. More on him in just a moment, but first you have a video spotlight featuring Ralston Road.
Yeah, Ralston Road was winner locally here in one of the conditions races that were preps for the Carnival, kind of bringing out some of the higher-rated horses. And Ralston Road on the inside here in the black colors with the yellow sleeves of Jimmy Long's Thistle Blood stock. Look, this horse just absolutely rides the rail and comes up with a win. And when you're looking at the past performances, you're going to note that this is a horse who had a win at Meydan over 2 turns recently. That's going to stand out on paper. I question whether it is all that meaningful in the long run. Ralston Road had what we could really define as an absolutely stone-cold perfect trip.
A pocket trip, Pat.
Pocket. And then Izaj at the top of the stretch comes just off the rail enough and gives Tago Shea a perfect lane through. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen on Thursday. And it actually converts into the track stat of the day. What we have here is that from this race, the winner, Ralston Road, covered the shortest trip, and the second place finisher, Izaj, covered the second shortest trip. It was a good field. This one might actually be a little lower in quality, but I don't think Ralston Road gets that trip. He's drawn in gate 11 today in this field of 12. I don't think that the rail opens up or the pace sets up for Ralston Road like it did last time.
What about, Pat, a horse like Haafaguinea, a turf horse by trade, but 1-for-1 on the all-weather. William Buick rides for Godolphin trainer Saeed Bensour. Should be fit and ready to fire off the 4-month freshening. I kind of fancy this one a little bit. I believe at 9-2 in your morning line.
Yeah, new to the barn, was with Clive Cox. Always have to be aware of these new Godolphin purchases for the Carnival. Horses who've had success over the all-weather. They pretty much don't buy them and bring them to Dubai unless they've had success over the all-weather. So they saw that. They liked what they saw. I certainly give Haafaguinea a chance. I actually made the horse my second choice, but I don't think you can avoid number 8, Caddo Mountain. 4 starts on the all-weather, 4 wins. 2 of them happen to be at today's distance of 2,200 meters. I think that is very, very impressive. This is the horse to beat. I think it's probably the easiest Carnival pick so far of the year, but it's a horse race. Anything can happen. So that's where I think a Haafaguinea and a Ralston Road come into it, even number 10, Saxo Jack. All that being said, Caddo Mountain, the Amwager best bet of the day in the first race, 9:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Thursday.
Guinea trials are on tap next. Races 2 and 3, Pat, both at 7 furlongs. Race 2 for the girls, race 3 for the boys. In the filly race, Pat, it doesn't look like the apple will fall too far from the tree, or in likely this case, the winner's circle. We've got Autumn Lily, Wedding Ring, Two favorites, both trained by the aforementioned Charlie Appleby, who won two races on night one of the Carnival.
Yeah, so the barn came out steaming. We expected that it wasn't going to take long. Maybe surprised a little bit by the horses who did it. But look, these two I think are standouts in this race. Mike DeCock brings two fillies in here, numbers 1 and 2, Magruma and Magrora. Good luck to Terry Spargo keeping them straight. But Wedding Ring to me is probably slightly better than Autumn Lily. Some of her best wins have come in some slightly restricted company, so I think that's a bit of a concern. I still think she's best in this race. I think this is a race where the Godolphin fillies really do kind of stand out above the class, and I have to give one mention for number 5, Letter from America, who was a maiden winner last time. And you know, Joe, I know you occasionally a bit of a bloodstock guy. This filly is by Ghost Zapper, bred in America. She's going to get on the Tapeta for the first time, having one on the grass, and she will get blinkers back on for the second time in her career. I think she's going to show some speed, and I think she might be the one to catch, but I went with Wedding Ring in the 1,000 guineas trial.
I think it's important too, Pat. We watched these horses in the paddock and the parade ring and coming over, and I saw quite a few horses that looked really good in the parade ring go on out to the racetrack and get a little bit warm. So outside of the handicapping, pay attention to these things, and we'll be tweeting during the course of the programs as well, trying to give you some up-to-date information. But I think how the horses look in the flesh and how they act on the racetrack before the race is very important, particularly with these horses coming in off of layoffs. We're going to move now to race number 3, which is the Guineas Trial for the boys, Pat. A tough race. The horse Emirates Flyer for Godolphin, your lukewarm 7-2 morning line favorite. Mike DeCock has two horses entered. Full Combat, who looks better suited to me for more distance, and Journeyman, who is by Trippy, should love the 7 furlong trip, and he's shown some raw talent in just 2 lifetime starts.
Raw's a good word for him, Joe, and the word I've been hearing is that he really is quite juvenile in his behavior, maybe a little studdish, so to speak. He just his mind isn't always focused on what he's doing, but that could change when he gets in the race. One of the trip comments in his last run in South Africa was that he really was green, but seemed to be kind of picking things up as he went along. Look, here's the thing. In this race, in the past, when Godolphin has had runners and decent runners, they tend to be fairly unexposed. And by unexposed, we mean they haven't done a lot. That they're progressive, that they're starting to round into form. And the thing that caught me off guard here is that number 7, Emirates Flyer, number 8, Figure of Speech, and number 13, Safety Check, all trained by the Godolphin trainers, Said Bin Suror and Charlie Appleby. These 3 horses have made a combined 23 starts. That's averaging almost 7.5 starts for each of them in their career. It's a little bit much. Figure of Speech and Safety Check definitely kind of, I think, on the higher end of that scale. It is a little concerning to me that they are as exposed as they are on their past form. And Emirates Flyer has been a bridesmaid a few too many times, maybe. So I really couldn't make a big case for either of them, or in all 3 of them. I sided with Journeyman. Progeny from Trippy, according to the Briss Sire stats, he was rated an A+ last year, which indicates that Progeny are winning roughly around the 20% mark in their all-weather starts. We don't see many sons of Trippy try the all-weather in Dubai. I don't think we ever have, maybe 1 or 2. He used to be in America, now is a South African-based stallion. I went with Journeyman here. I know he probably needs this race for Mike DeCock, but I was really lacking a lot of direction in the race.
Yeah, I'm with you, Pat, and I just think based on the fact that this horse has shown some talent already, has some progressiveness, and, the trainer got off to a fast start, I think there's a lot to like, particularly the 8-1 price, so it'll be interesting to see how the board shakes out, because I do think, like you said, some of these other horses they've already exposed what they are at this point in their career, so I'm looking for an upstart.
Yeah, and Joe, they are coming off this South African layoff. We have seen this. Now, this week is where the South Africans are starting to make their appearance. So, we'll see. Look, Mike DeCock won this race last year with soft falling rain off the quarantine layoff, so he could do it again here. I'm just not all that moved by the home team stable, so to speak.
If nothing else, it's going to be interesting, as will the 5th race, which is the feature. It's the Dubawi Stakes for all-weather sprinters. Pat, 3-1 in the class here. Ronaldo, the Wizard, who loves the Maidan Tapeta and enters this race, obviously, on a 3-race win streak. That being said, he hasn't raced since March 30th. Look into your crystal ball, almighty Pat Cummings, and tell us, how is the Wizard going to run, buddy?
The Wizard. The Wizard. Nobody beats the Wiz, right? Look, if there's anybody has a crystal ball for this race, they have to look into it and they have to look back to March 30th to the Dubai Golden Shaheen. Let's go back, cue the video. We have 5 horses that are in this race from the Golden Shaheen that are coming back in the Dubai Stakes. Now, let's start with the winner, Ronaldo the Wizard. He's in those yellow silks, Belmont Mast in the red, Krypton Factor, who won the Golden Shaheen 2 years ago. Kavanaugh had a ground-saving trip, and United Color is out the back of the pack. And we play, look, Ronaldo the Wizard he loves the Tapeta. There is no question about it. The question we have to ask ourselves, Joe, is winning the $150,000 Dubai Stakes the goal here? Remember when we talked about the tips for the Carnival last week? What is the intent of this horse in this race? For a lot of these horses, I don't think today is the goal. Ed Lynham has Belmont Mast, Fozzie Nass, Krypton Factor, Mike DeCock has Kavanaugh, and certainly for Satish Seymour and Ronaldo the Wizard, the goal is down the line. So what do? I've taken a slightly contrarian look on the race. I think there's going to be a fairly decent amount of pace led by Russian Soul, and if a lot of horses start rushing to kind of chase the pace, if they quicken up enough, I think the race could set up for number 9, United Color, who finished 5th in last year's Golden Shaheen. He was coming from well off the pace. I think he'll do that again in this particular spot. He is a winner over course and distance at Meydan, and he had a very, very respectable performance at Jebel Ali a couple weeks ago. The winner, Muarab, a very good local sprinter, and the 3rd place finisher from that race came out and ran a decent 5th, beating only 2 lengths at Meydan at the Carnival last week. So for me, it's a bit of an intent, a setup. I like number 9, United Color, and have made it my value play of the day off of an 8-1 morning line on the International Tote.
Well, Pat, you mentioned a lot of pace in the race. I guess that remains to be seen. I think Russian Soul, as you mentioned, will be forwardly placed, and I think if this horse brings the A game, he could run a big race as well at odds of 8-1 on the morning line, and 8-1 for you, and 8-1 for me. And the time has now come to review all of your selections on Dubai World Cup Carnival Day number 2.
Yeah, so like we said, Catamountain's the best bet of the day out of the first race. I went with Wedding Ring and Journeyman in the Guineas Trials, but a little more solid on Wedding Ring than I am on Journeyman. I think race 3 is a real bit of a minefield. You want to talk about a tough race? How about the 4th race?
How many times? Tell the viewers, how many different morning lines did you make for the 4th race?
6, I think. I stopped sending them after a while. Look, 11 of the 12 horses can win this race. It's a phenomenally well-balanced handicap field. If you have any opinion, back it, and you will probably be rewarded. I sided with number 11, Tha'ir. I think he'll be close to the pace in a race that maybe lacks some. So I went with 11 Tha'ir, and then United Color. And, a very interesting angle. In the 6th race, number 4, Validus, he was a $640,000 purchase as a gelding by Godolphin last year at the Tattersall's October in training sale. He has some back class on the all-weather. They spent a lot of money for a gelding, and I'm backing Validus in the last.
All right, well, here are my spot plays kind of sprinkled throughout this video as we discuss those particular races. Haafaguinea in race number 1 at 9-2. Journeyman for Mike DeCock, also agreeing with Pat Cummings there in race number 3. And in race number 5, the featured race, I'm going to go with the speedy sprinter Russian Soul on the Tapeta at odds of 8-1. Pat, Bankroll Challenge, we instituted it for the first time last week. We won't dwell on the results. This is a new week. Week number 2, we've had our prep race. I'm going to go with the 3 horses that I mentioned as my spot plays in a win and place wagering format. 10-30 on Haafaguinea, 10-20 on Journeyman and Russian Soul, both of whom will offer better prices than my first bankroll selection. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I went with 20 to win and 40 to place on United Color, who I think almost regardless of what happens in the market, he's going to be a decent price. And then in the 6th race, the rest, 40 to win on Validus. I don't know where the market's going to go in this race and how people are going to necessarily look at it. So I think Validus could retain a bit of that 4-1 morning line value, and he is my pick in the last.
All right, and don't forget you can follow Pat and I on Twitter. Pat Cummings at Dubai Race Night and Track is Racing. Myself at Joey Decay Racing. I'll take another shot at those parade ring observations, and also when the horses go out onto the racetrack race by race for Dubai World Cup Carnival week number 2. Pat Cummings, any final thoughts on this racing program before you get on a plane and head to the desert yourself?
No, I just got to find my way to the private jet terminal, and we should be good. No, it's going to be a phenomenal trip, and look forward to seeing everybody and lots of updates throughout the course of the week and the weekend, and definitely all over Twitter.
Have fun and behave yourself.
Thanks, Joe.
That's the piece of advice I have for Pat Cummings. For all of you in Videoland, enjoy Dubai World Cup Carnival week number 2. We'll see you next week.